Hello gamers! Today my dad is going to talk about Nintendo Switch 2! Yeah!
Oh, thank you, my beautiful darling Tina. Hey there, guys. After waiting for a long time, I want to introduce the new Nintendo console to you. Nintendo's new console has been announced and it's called, well, the Nintendo Switch 2. On first inspection, it barely looks any different to a regular Switch, but take a closer look and there is plenty of fascinating details that suggest how Nintendo has evolved its beloved hybrid console. 30 of them in fact, and we are here to show you them all. Number 1. The Switch 2's form factor is much the same as its predecessor, just a little bigger. The main unit of the console has grown in size and the now Joy-Cons are taller. We estimate the entire console is around 15% bigger than the original Switch. Number 2. Gone are the brightly colored Joy-Con of the last generation. Nintendo has opted for a uniform dark gray across the entire console, which gives the entire device something of a slicker Steam Deck-like appearance. Number 3. That's not to say that the console is devoid of color entirely. It pays homage back to the original Switch's bright red and blue controllers with a ring of color around each analog stick. This extends to the inner edges of both the console unit and each Joy-Con, which not only looks slick but acts as a color coding system. Red slots into red and blue slots into blue. Number 4. Talking of slots, the Joy-Con no longer slide into place on rails. Instead, they now directly slot into the device with a protruding connector on the main unit plugging into a port on the inner edge of the Joy-Con. While unconfirmed by this trailer, rumors have suggested that each Joy-Con is held in place using magnets similar to Apple's MagSafe laptop charging cables. Number 5. The rear of each Joy-Con features a newly designed trigger system that releases the controller from the main unit. As you can briefly see in the demonstration video published on Nintendo.com, squeezing the trigger causes a piston-like component inside the Joy-Con to push the controller away from the console. Number 6. On the front of the Joy-Con, we see that the classic control layout has been preserved. The analog sticks remain offset with the left stick sat above the 4 direction buttons and the right stick below the A, B, X, and Y face button. Towards the tops of the controllers are the plus and minus buttons, and at the bottom is the square capture button on the left and circle home button on the right. Number 7. Below the home button is a new unlabeled button. What does it actually do? Well, it's a mystery to everyone but Nintendo. Number 8. The L and R shoulder buttons are exactly where you'd expect them to be, and sitting beneath them are the ZL and ZR triggers. These appear to be deeper and more rounded than those on the Switch, and so will hopefully be more comfortable to use and easier to operate. Number 9. The analog sticks still use a low profile design, but their faces have a notably smaller inside ring radius and thicker, taller rims. This likely is to provide better thumb grip and support. Number 10. There is no sign of the NFC Amiibo interface on the right hand Joy-Con, but that's not to say it won't be there. After all, the feature was invisible on the original Switch. What does seem to be missing though is the IR sensor that was on the bottom edge of the original right Joy-Con. Considering barely any Switch game used it, it is perhaps unsurprising to see it cut from Switch 2. Number 11. Once again, the internal edges of each Joy-Con controller have SL and SR buttons, indicating that the Switch 2 will still allow players to use each individual Joy-Con as its own controller. The big improvement here though is that the SL and the SR buttons are significantly larger, potentially up to 4 times the length of those on the original Switch. They will almost certainly be easier to use. Number 12. The strip of 4 green LEDs that indicate which player each Joy-Con is assigned to has returned, although this time it's on the forward-facing edge of the connector strip rather than the inward-facing one. Number 13. Between the SL and SR buttons is the connector port that links each Joy-Con to the main console unit, but also another couple of interesting components. Mirroring the original Switch, we can see the sync button below the connector, which will pair a Joy-Con with the console. Number 14. It's the component above the connector that proves most intriguing though. This This small, clear lens could well be a laser sensor similar to what's in a computer mouse. If so, it would mean the Joy-Con can be used like a mouse. The trailer even suggests this when the Joy-Con skate around with their wrist strap accessories attached. They literally look like scaring mice with tails. Number 15. Talking of the wrist straps, they're back in a newly designed form with red and blue colors to match the internal color splash on each Joy-Con. Number 16. Moving on to the main console unit itself, the key improvement is a bigger screen. It's not quite the near edge-to-edge panel that the Switch OLED boasted, but it takes up significantly more of the unit than the original Switch's display. What display technology it uses is currently unclear. While we'd love to see a bright OLED screen, this base model could well use a more traditional LED panel. Number 17. The top edge of the device is largely unchanged. It features a slightly redesigned power and volume buttons, a 3.5mm headphone jack, and a ventilation grill that appears to be a roughly similar size to that on the original Switch, just split into 3 vents rather than 5. Number 18. The game card slot also remains on the top edge of the console. It's also the only visible slot on the device. Considering the machine is backwards compatible, that means the Switch 2's game cartridges will almost certainly be the same form factor as those used in the original Switch. Number 19. There is one new curious addition to the top edge to speculate about though. Next to the headphone jack, we can see a USB-C port. What this is for, we are uncertain, as the Switch 2 also has the same button-mounted USB-C port as its predecessor for docking and charging. Perhaps there are a range of USB-based peripherals in the works that make more sense mounted to the top of the console, or perhaps the next Pokemon will go fully old school and use a link cable to trade monsters, or maybe we're just too excited and we should wait to find out what a Mr. USB slot does. Number 20. Alongside the bottom-facing USB-C port are new downward-firing speakers that replace the original Switch's rear-facing speakers. This new position will hopefully ensure better sound quality. Number 21. The rear of the console sports a brand new kickstand system, which runs the entire length of the device. It does admittedly look a little flimsy, but the rubber feet on the edges of the console unit itself may be there to help support the kickstand and keep the entire device steady. The kickstand also seems to be able to lock into multiple angles. At the very least, it will have an upright position and one that lies it at a much shallower angle that's almost lying flat. Number 22. As you would expect, the Switch can be plugged into a dock and connected to a TV. The dock appears nearly identical to the original Switches, but the corners have been rounded off to match the radius of the Joy-Cons. Oh, by the way, there is a massive Switch 2 logo on the front of it as well. Number 23. Also mirroring the original Switch is the inclusion of a controller peripheral that the Joy-Cons slot into. It looks just as uncomfortable as the original version, but hopefully hands-on time will reveal that some improvements have been made. Number 24. You cannot have a console reveal trailer without a game, and this Switch 2 reveal gives us a sneak peek at what looks like a brand new Mario Kart game. It appears this will be a bigger, more chaotic version of Nintendo's beloved racer, as the starting line has space for 24 racers. Mario Kart 8 was limited to just 12 racers. Number 25. Arching over that starting line is a sign that reads Mario Kart Mario Bros Circuit. It appears to be a whole new, seemingly American flavor track for Mario Kart, one that appears to make use of more open space and off-road sections. Number 26. The clip confirms 10 characters for the roster: Mario, Luigi, Bowser, Peach, Yoshi, Toad, Donkey Kong, Daisy, Rosalina, and finally Wario, who can be spotted for just a split second as the screen flips. Number 27. While brand new games such as new Mario Kart were obviously on the cards, it is great to see that the old Switch games will be supported through backwards compatibility. However, the reveal trailer does warn that certain games may not be supported. We suspect that this may refer to games that use peripherals that directly connected to the Switch 1's Joy Joy-Cons. Ring Fit Adventure, for instance, required the Joy-Con to be slotted into the ring, and the new Joy-Con design will presumably be incompatible with the old rail system. Number 28. But when can we finally own this brand new Nintendo console? 2025 is the only date we're given, so sometimes between the next 10 months, I guess, but likely not before June. Number 29. We will learn much more, including hopefully a release date in just a few short months. A Nintendo Direct is scheduled for April 2nd. Number 30. Following the Direct, you'll be able to get hands-on with the console yourself as part of the Nintendo Switch 2 experience, a worldwide tour taking place between April and June, starting on April 4th in New York and Paris, and then going on to visit cities such as London, Berlin, Melbourne, Tokyo, and Seoul. It's open to all Nintendo account holders, provided you win a ticket via the free-to-enter ballot. Registration for the ticket opens up on January 17th. Well, guys, this was all the information that was recently published about the lovely Nintendo Switch 2. Please support my beautiful daughter Tina and I by subscribing to our channel. Do not forget to ring the bell for notifications. Goodbye.
Thank you, Father, for talking about Nintendo Switch 2. Also, that's the end, gamers. And like and subscribe. I hope you didn't forget. Bye!